The video contains major spoilers for the following shows, one of which is actually kinda good. My girlfriend recently got me this scratch off 100 anime bucket list poster, which consists of 99 good shows and Fairy Tail. I'm just kidding. SAO also bribed its way on here somehow. So, since I recently got COVID and was confined to my house like the weeb version of Gollum, I decided to make myself even more miserable by finishing the manga I'd been putting off for several years now. But was it worth it? Well, at least the thing is scratched off now. Now, before you ask, yes, that was a clip from an actual Fairy Tail opening, and yes, that song is the only good thing about the show. Fairy Tail sucks for a lot of reasons, but I think the most central is how it betrays the reader's expectations, which is strange because I didn't have any going in, but it still betrayed them regardless, and not in a good way. The show wants to have its cake and eat it too, and while that is a perfectly reasonable thing to expect when you, say, buy a cake, apparently shows are not allowed to do that. I don't know, that quote never really made any sense to me if I thought about it for more than like 2 seconds. Just like Fairy Tail. Wow, what a segue! And like the segue craze refuses to die, so too do the characters in Fairy Tail. Now this video is going to cover some pretty heavy material, as we're going to be focusing on death. Though it's just the death of fictional characters, so it's not really that bad. There are right and wrong ways to handle character deaths in storytelling. But first, we're going to distinguish the 2 ways a character can be killed off, as they usually serve different purposes. We have on-screen and off-screen deaths. First, let's cover off-screen deaths. There are a multitude of reasons to kill a character off-screen, but here's just a few. If it's a character that no one cares about, kill them off-screen. If the circumstances of a character's death have significant plot relevance and you don't want to play your hand too early, kill them off-screen. If you need a character to disappear from your story, but your show is a little too kid-friendly to actually show it, kill them off-screen. If you have no budget and or ability to write, well, guess what? You can just kill your characters off-screen. If you want to hide the fact that a character is actually alive, kill them off-screen. And this last one is the big one. A lot of audience members are going to have that final bullet point in mind. If a character is not killed on screen, then there's always going to be that chance they are alive. They're kind of like Schrodinger's cat. They're alive until we see the body. But the fact that the character's death is seemingly not set in stone, and that we don't witness it firsthand, will lower the emotional impact of their death. If you want to have an impactful death in your story, it's likely going to be an on-screen death. Character deaths are often the most pivotal and memorable parts of a story, though they come at the cost of killing off a core character, often one who has been there since the very beginning. Because we've known them for so long, their death means a lot more than some rando who dies in the background. Which is wild because they were never born and will never actually live or die. Storytelling is a cleverly constructed lie, one with enough internal logic and consistency for us to take it as truth. If we constantly remind the reader that it's fake, we will lose their investment. Because of this, lying to the reader can only be done if it makes sense within the context of the story. Otherwise, it's just going to pull you out of it. Death is the one thing in life that is completely irreversible. When that body goes cold, they're not coming back. It is currently an immutable law of living. So killing off a character has to be final. Otherwise, you're blatantly showing the reader that the universe is Calvin Ball and you can do whatever the hell you want. Which is true, of course, but you don't want to remind the reader of that. Fake out deaths are cyanide for suspension of disbelief. So no competent author should use them willy-nilly. You want to guess how many times Fairy Tail has pretended to kill a character only to do a 180? 6 times. In the final arc alone. I'm not even counting the ones outside of that. And what's unfortunate is that some of their deaths are actually set up pretty well. Gajeel literally drags a villain to hell with him to save his girlfriend, which is like the most metal way to go out, which is fitting because the guy is made of steel. Juvia does a lover's suicide to save Grey's life, and Makarov kamikazes himself to clear the way for Fairy Tail. If they stayed dead, these could have been great scenes. You probably know what's coming. They did not stay dead for very long. Gajeel gets teleported back like nothing ever happened because a wizard did it. Juvia is fine because a wizard did it. And Makarov is fine because the ghost of a long dead wizard did it. This is not to say that you can't fake an on-screen character death. You totally can, but you have to do it in a way that the audience is ultimately going to be okay with, and you can't do it that often. A great example of an on-screen character death done well is in Avatar: The Last Airbender. If you ignored that earlier spoiler warning and haven't seen the show yet, do it. Or skip ahead to this timestamp, because honestly, Avatar is actually worth watching. It deserves to be on this top 100 anime list. Because it's anime. Alright, spoiler time. So, one of the absolute highlights of Avatar is when Aang dies at the end of Book 2. He's the main character. His death happens at the climax of the arc, and right after he makes the difficult choice of letting Katara go, so he can gain the power to defeat Azula. And Azula completely disregards the unwritten rule of anime that states she must politely wait for all characters to finish their power-ups, and just murks him halfway through it. After this, Katara escapes with his body and uses special healing water to revive him. So why isn't this bullshit? Why was the audience okay with this? Well, for starters, we were told at the start of the season that Katara was given this magic water, and she has a finite amount of it. It is a single extra life for the party. But this by itself is not what makes the death meaningful. After all, the mechanism that revives characters in Dragon Ball all the time is explained to the reader. So why did the deaths in Dragon Ball feel so cheap? It's because there are no consequences. If Yamcha dies, who the hell cares? He'll come back in like a week with the Dragon Balls, and he's Yamcha. In Fairy Tail, who cares if someone dies? They'll be back in like 30 seconds because magic. But Aang's death in Avatar actually means something. There are consequences for the world and Aang himself. Ba Sing Se, the capital of the Earth Kingdom, falls. Arguably the single most important city for resisting the Fire Nation is captured. The good guys lose. Horribly. And it's not like Aang himself gets off scot-free. He loses the ability to enter the Avatar state for a while, and he doesn't regain it until the Fire Lord throws him through a literal mountain at like 200 miles an hour. Now, what I have here is the wiki list of all deaths in Fairy Tail, and I want you to pause and just peruse through it. Now, you might notice a few questionable entries in here. Yes, the future version of a main character gets killed, and yes, they felt the need to put that on the wiki. If you think about it, it's a hypothetical of a fictional character being killed off. Who would give a shit? But you might have also noticed how they also killed off a character who was already dead, but we'll get to him later. What I want to focus on for now is how the vast majority of the deaths that actually stick are the villains. The author tries to give them a lot of emotional backstory so we feel something when they pass, but they're villains, so fuck them. They don't get a second chance. Now, if you're a good guy in Fairy Tail who has died, then one of 5 things are true. No one even remembers who you are. You were killed off before the story even began. You were dying for unrelated reasons anyways. You died, but then were revived because a wizard did it. Or, your name is fucking Simon. Seriously, I guess no one loved Simon enough to use that bullshit revive magic we see next to half the entries on this damn list. Get fucked, Simon. No one likes you in your stupid game. Hiro Mashima wants you to feel something when these characters die, but he also doesn't want to make the story heavy, so everyone has to be fine in the end like it's a fucking fairy tale. Oh, wait. I just made that connection. This list doesn't even cover all the fake deaths, by the way. One I haven't mentioned is the tragic tale of Lisanna, a character who has been dead since the start of the series, only she is revealed to be alive. Let me set the stage. Lisanna, her sister Mary Jane, and brother Elfman go on a mission to take down the Beast. The 3 siblings each use body possession magic, and the older brother steals the body of the Beast, only to go berserk. Man, if only there was some magic water to calm him down. But there isn't, so Lisanna steps in to do what every good little sister would do, and yep. Now you'd think a hit that hard would send her straight to the death dimension, but no. The Beast actually overswung and knocked her into the cat dimension instead. Whoops. No, I didn't make any of that shit up. So when the main characters find Lysana in the cat dimension and bring her back home, there's this heartfelt reunion between her and her siblings, and then she was never seen again. She doesn't do anything for the rest of the series, so you really wonder why they bothered bringing her back. The alternate version of Lysana died, by the way, but she doesn't show up on this list because while the death of the future version of a main character is wiki-worthy, an alternate universe version doesn't qualify, I guess. And speaking of questionable deaths, I'll round out the video by returning to Silver, aka the story of how one of the emotional high points in Fairy Tail involved the main character killing his already dead father. Much like how this video is me attempting to kill an already dead franchise. Now, the sequence of events here is also going to require a little bit of explaining. Gray is Jacob from Twilight, except instead of turning into a werewolf, he turns things to ice, which also requires him to take his shirt off, like all the time. When he was a kid, his family, including his father, was killed by a demon called Deliora, who his teacher was able to defeat with suicide magic, which she for some reason thought would be a good idea to teach to the most emo character in this show. Now we fast forward way later and Gray runs into the spitting image of his father, only he's a bad guy. He and Gray fight before Silver reveals DeLorean had somehow possessed his father's body, despite the fact that his teacher already killed him. So Gray is fighting his childhood boogeyman. Gray mortally wounds Silver, and it is revealed that Silver was never possessed by the DeLorean, but rather he just pretended to be him so Gray could grow up and, plot twist, he was already dead and being controlled by a necromancer, apparently. So if you're following all of the plot twists so far, you'll find we've actually done a plot somersault and ended up right back where we started. The only difference is that Gray is no longer scared of the demon that's been dead for about the entire series, and we get to watch Silver get freaked out when, during their fight, Gray threatens to push the suicide button like 3 times. But sure, I guess the lesson was worth it. At least there's a lesson that we can take away from this as well. Being a writer isn't easy. You'll have to make some tough choices like killing your darlings, but it's something you'll have to accept. If you try to have it both ways, you won't have a lasting story, you'll have a lasting joke.
Fairy Tail. I mean, this is it, right, guys? This is it's got to be this. It's got to be. I can't.
Thanks for watching.